open that up. 1-2, 1-2. Good evening, everybody. Our match of round 21 in the NPL New South Wales men's competition brings together two of Australia's most historic football clubs with plenty on the line for both in 2025. Round 21 action from Barton Park in the NPL New South Wales men's. Test 1-2, test 1-2, test 1-2. Stay at that level. Yep. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. 1-2, 1-2. La 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 la. Yes, good evening everybody. Our match of round 21 in the NPL New South Wales men's competition brings together two of Australia's most historic football clubs, with plenty on the line for both in 2025. St George FC hosting APIA Leichhardt on the site of the old St George Stadium for the first time in 2 decades. Alex Molchanoff, delighted to be along with you for another chapter in this fixture's storied history tonight. The host finals hopes are right on the brink, but they're still in line for their highest finish in this division in 20 years. A win here would keep them in with a strong chance of bettering even that 7th place finish back in 2005. For APIA, finals have been the bare minimum for the last decade. They need to be faultless for an unlikely shot at a second premiership in 3 seasons. But with a final series, the newly minted Australian Championship and an Australia Cup tie against Melbourne City on the horizon, Franco Parisi knows the importance of keeping their good run of form going ahead of the most important period in the club's recent history. So plenty to play for on this historic site tonight. Let's have a look at the 2 lineups. St George make 2 changes from the side held to a 1-1 draw by the Sutherland Sharks here last weekend. Mackenzie Siron continues in goal behind a new look back 4. Nick Calagero at right back. Mark Rodich in the centre of defence, partnering the newly signed Rocco Smith, the Central Coast Mariners academy man, making the switch over in the transfer window, with Troy Danascus starting at left back. Midfield 3 for Fabian Michelli, Evan Souris and Caden Wright, either side of Bay Antonio, who will push furthest forward. Justin Poon and Aidan O'Shea, the wingers, behind the restored Jaden Casella up front. APIA make just 1 change. It's enforced by suspension, with Franco Farinella out, but that allows Fabian Monge to make his first start for the club since rejoining from Melbourne Victory in the A-League Men's. He was key in their push to the 2023 Premiership. We are underway. St George FC in their traditional home strip of red, white and green, and the colours of their Hungarian heritage. APIA in the change strip of sky blue with the maroon socks. And it's they who have taken early possession. Just brought you that lone change. Ollie Kalatz in goal. The back 4 restored. Cameron Fong, Drayden Kelly, Michael Kuda and Sean Simmons wearing the captain's armband. Behind a talented midfield 3 as Kalatz launches that one onto the near side. Jack Stewart, Saya Kambiashi, Rory Jordan behind Presley Ortiz up front. Important night tonight for APIA. They'll need to be almost faultless from here if they're to challenge for that premiership, with Marconi and Rockdale a number of points ahead of them at this stage, as well as Spirit FC are in action against their great rivals Sydney United 58 tomorrow. So much history between these 2 clubs. I brought you in the intro. They played in 5 grand finals in New South Wales State League football between 1960 and 1975. APIA, the winner, is on 3 occasions of those. St George got a couple. It's before the introduction of even the NSL. So far we're looking back in history for that little bit of story in this fixture. This is the modern edition. Still means just as much for the players out there tonight. APIA have been one of the stalwarts in this competition for so long now. Even before the end of the NSL era, they're with Blacktown and Sydney United as the most successful clubs in this division. Cohen now playing their football down in League One, part of that conversation as well. Jack Stewart on the ball here tonight. He's going to take on a couple of ex-Mount Druitt Town Rangers teammates on the St George FC side of things, as Siron had to make ground at his near post. It's a miss-hit cross from Cameron Fong. Wouldn't have mattered if it had ended up in the back of the net, not to be at this early stage. Entertaining game played out between these 2 earlier in the season. It finished in a 3-3 draw out at Lambert Park. APIA led 3-1, and balls like that were giving them trouble all night. It's Justin Poon on to the end of this one to give St George the lead. as quick as a flash. And the man who was in such fine early season form has recaptured a bit of it here inside 3 minutes. Stunning start for the Saints. And Poon's got the halo around his head for that run and the finish, which was unerring. Young starlet brought all the way through their junior system and has become such a key part of Fabian Michelli's side. Our fourth strike of the season for the fleet-footed winger. And you saw his pace on full display there. APIA caught cold on this chilly evening. They've got such a strong attack, APIA, that you certainly wouldn't discount them finding an answer sooner rather than later, but that's exactly the start St George FC were looking for. Their first attack of the match brings its first goal. And so APIA need to find a response. This is more the pattern that found them in holes earlier in the season. A little bit too loose defensively. Cooter and Kelly caught square on. And when Sean Simmons was in a foot race, as good as he is, Sean, there was only one winner. The younger legs of Justin Poon taking him away. Still only 19 years of age. And building towards a very strong senior career. So he was the hero in their promotion campaign, of course. Came off the bench on the final day to get the late goal that put them into the promotion relegation playoff, which they would go on to win against the Mount Druitt Town Rangers. He looks right at home in this competition. Step up the ladder. Here's Fabian Monge, a first touch back in APIA colours. Familiar face for the APIA faithful. Became a favourite here during the 2023 Premiership campaign. First ever 30-game season. He was one of the first names on the team sheet for Franco Parisi. Earned himself an A-League contract with his fine form. Part of that run to the grand final, which ended at the final hurdle. It's Melbourne City in the A-League men's. Of course, Melbourne City are topical for APIA Leichhardt supporters at the moment, because that was who they've been drawn to face in the round of 32 of the Australia Cup. Another chance at a big scalp. They've got a couple of those already. It's the Western Sydney Wanderers in Melbourne victory. But at the time APIA beat them, were the A-League champions. So they'll be hoping that history can repeat itself, but got to make sure their mind is firmly on the task here before they start thinking about all those accolades that could be coming their way later in the season. I'll list it for you just before kickoff here. Football hasn't been too bad. It was just the defensive and Rory Jordan might have an immediate response. The flag is up on the near side. It was a good save by Ciron in any case. Spread himself nicely. He's had a bit of work to do. The St George FC custodian. It's been a tale of his season. Returned to New South Wales with Marconi last season after a couple of stints down in NPL Victoria with the Preston Lions and Avondale. Talking about promotion campaigns, he was a big part of St George Cities back in 2022, a grand final winner with them against the Central Coast Mariners. Crossovers everywhere you look in this fixture, as well as the immense amount of history. Sean Simmons wearing the captain's armband for APIA Leichhardt in the absence of Adrian Uccino tonight. He's available off the bench, but the signing of Fabian Monge means there's just a little bit more versatility and depth for Franco Parisi to call on. Casella, he almost caught Kalatz out with a dummy, but he didn't manage to get a touch on the football. APIA shot stoppers, been seeing a bit of it. It's been end-to-end stuff for the opening 7 minutes. Stewart, face-to-face with Danaskos. Two of the best in their respective positions across the competition. Stewart wins out in that little battle by fashioning a corner for APIA Leichhardt. mentioned pre-game as well. First visit back to this particular patch of grass for APIA in 2 decades. A place where they played so often for so long, both in the State League and in their time in the National Soccer League. Last away fixture at St George, they managed to salvage a late draw thanks to one of the goals of the season from Nick Sullivan, now departed. And there was a bit of pressure coming towards Sean Simmons, and then a little bit of afters as well. It's first Drayden Kelly and then Michael Kuda, both the centre halves of APIA, ganging up somewhat on the St George FC goalkeeper in that little passage. That one didn't tickle for Paul Mackenzie Siron. And he's going to need some further attention here. He's been brave in the opening stages of this game. It's taken out of him physically. Let's hope this isn't anything too arresting. He's grabbing up in that right arm, which is where the contact was. Hopefully just a bruise rather than anything too serious. Daniel Axford is the backup goalkeeper, as he has been for most of the season for Fabian Michelli. Should he be required. Player who can do his job. He's been around Football New South Wales leagues for a long period of time, but given Siron's form over the last month or so, St George will be hoping that he can continue. Hopefully a bit of magic spray is able to get him right and ready. Just bringing you an update from the results already this round. St George City getting a 2-0 win against Manly United down at Cromer Park last night. The Western Sydney Wanderers and Wollongong Wolves playing out a 1-1 draw. Keeps the relegation battle very, very interesting. Mount Druitt Town Rangers and the Central Coast Mariners both in action tomorrow against one another up at Plume Park. Be happy with that result after it looked for a long time like the Wanderers might take all 3 points. And then Blacktown City in the race for the finals places have found form at the right stage of the season, getting a 2-0 win against Sydney Olympic at Jubilee Stadium. Goal either side of half-time, which has got them sitting a little safer inside the top 6. It's now Sydney United that everybody is chasing. We've got a big clash against Spirit FC tomorrow, which you'll be able to find from 3 o'clock where you found this one on the Football New South Wales YouTube channel. Tees and Jordan trying to link up. Rory Jordan having the best chance of the game. The opening 10 minutes for APIA Leichhardt. Hasn't had quite the goal-scoring return this year, Jordan. Just the 2 in the league fixtures. Add on to 1 in the cup, and this is not good news for St George FC because Siron is back down, and his fine start to the evening looks like it's going to be the end of it. Really disappointing. Just copped a knock from Michael Kuda as he was looking to release the ball after bravely coming to claim from a set piece. Daniel Axford is getting himself ready to enter the fray here. Certainly the loss of Siron a goal is something that will worry Michelli somewhat, but as much as anything tonight, be disappointed to lose one of the 5 substitutes they have so early. Started a couple of games through the middle of the season, Axford, when Siron was out of action against the Central Coast Mariners and Blacktown City back in round 9 and 10. If you're just joining us a few minutes late on the Football New South Wales stream tonight, missed the opening goal of the game through Justin Poon. Continuing his fine run of form. Getting on the score sheet, and Siron, well, said he was reaching for his arm, but he's hobbling off here, so might actually be an injury further down. We'll endeavour to find some more details when we get to the break around the severity of this, but very, very disappointing for the 25-year-old Gloveman. He's had his battles with injury over the course of his career. Tonight is going to be cut short here, so that substitution being confirmed now by the 4th official, Damien Dolofsky. Well-earned hand for Siron. shame. Saw him in the pre-game. He's looking fired up and sharp. And a difficult task for the reserve goalkeeper now. He's got to find his way into the game. So George, you're going to give him a bit of time to get adjusted because they got it down the other end through Casella. Missed like last weekend's draw with Sutherland. Nicholas Skotaric is one of the new signings brought in from Mount Druitt Town Rangers, getting a first start. There's a couple more on the bench for Fabian Michelli tonight, which we'll bring to you as this game goes on. Quite intricate play on the edge of their area. Fell down at the critical moment, and Monge, this is what he's built his name on. Always tidy. Rotating the ball through the centre of the park. Of course, as I say that, he turns it over to Danaskos. He's trying to link up with Souris. Got his name on the score sheet for a 5th time this season. Last weekend, Troy Danaskos. Can't play provider there for Poon. There's a thumping header as well. He's not the biggest man, Troy Danaskos, but certainly puts himself about at set pieces and flew through the air to get a very solid head. And by Antonio's corner last weekend. Here is the aforementioned Antonio. Kelly and Casella come together. There's a difference in stature between those two. So styles make fights in the sweet science of boxing. It's going to be a little bit of that about their individual tussle this evening. Casella, the diminutive, almost false nine at times, but player who can spin in behind and trouble defences with his pace. One to keep an eye on for Drayden Kelly tonight, the Canadian. Kuda nodding that ball forward but out of play. Just shy of 15 minutes. It was all action in the opening 10. End to end, both goalkeepers called upon. Kelly lobbing that one up towards Ortiz. Apia's top goal scorer in his first season with the club. Taking that roll over from Ben Gibson, who did such a fine job of it a year ago. Speaking of players who earned A-League contracts, Gibson's been away with the Newcastle Jets in the A-League men's this season. Stewart aiming for Ortiz. Picked off by Rocco Smith. As we mentioned in the pre-game, out of the Central Coast Mariners system. A number of astute pickups from Fabian Michelli and St George in the mid-season registration window. Might just give them that little hope at finals football. Sitting 6 points adrift of Sydney United in 6th place as we began the night. This result was to hold all the way. They'd be back to 3 with United in action tomorrow, as we've mentioned, against Spirit. Seven Souris, who's barely missed a minute, spoken about his journey into the St George FC first team. Such a hard worker. See there, tidy on the ball as well. Caden Wright fits that bill. He's taken up the attack. And he's strong enough to see off the challenge of the retreating Ortiz. Building nicely for St George. Such a joy to watch when they're in full flight. As we saw in the opening 10 minutes, Poon getting his name on the score sheet for the 4th time this season. Gilberto Alicio turning for Michael Kuda. Hisei Kambiashi. Haven't seen too much of him in the opening quarter of an hour. Been having his name mentioned around gold medal and player of the year honours. Certainly been a regular fixture in the players of the month that are released every month by Football New South Wales. Certainly since he's moved back into midfield, he's been such an asset for APIA Leichhardt. Started the season playing as a wing back in the back 3 system for Franco Parisi. Moved more and more often away from that system as this season has worn on, and it's brought with it a fine run of form for APIA. Over the last 3 months, only interrupted by the cup defeat to the Northern Tigers in the Waratah Cup semi-final and heartbreaking loss to Spirit in the dying moments of that game at Christie Park a few weeks ago. Other than that, they have been near faultless. battle on their hands tonight, as we expected they might do. St George have taken it up to some of the biggest teams of the competition this season. They're free-flowing, attacking football. It's brought dividends down that end of the field. It's left them exposed defensively a few more times, I'm sure, than Fabian Michelli would like, but they're so carefree in the way they throw numbers forward and chase down lost causes, as Souris is doing here, forcing Kelly just to batter the ball over the far touchline. Here's Antonio. Lovely little pirouette on the football. Comes back to Calogero. Casella trying to bust it through a line of APIA defenders, and then Poon's strike was easily gathered by Kalatz at his near post. And Stewart can't control the ball out, much to the frustration of the APIA Leichhardt goalkeeper. Smith right along the line. A few words about the pitch. Moving around the grounds in pre-game. Quite as sterling condition, I'm sure, as St George FC would like it, but a new venue. There's all that experimentation to be done with different types of grass blends and all that sort of thing. There's a chance here for APIA if they play it right. Cambiashi goes himself and finds the equaliser. No celebration, business as usual for their star man, Seiya Cambiashi, who levels the scores inside 20 minutes. All came about a bit easily from St George's point of view. Turned over ball in midfield, and suddenly APIA had numbers. Stewart and Jordan playing decoy, and Cambiashi belting it past Axford. 1-1. Well, we mentioned there might well be goals. We got two inside 20 minutes here. I don't think there'll be too many betting against plenty more coming tonight. This game given match of the round billing in round 21 for good reason. Because of the history we've brought you, because of the recent fixtures played between these two, which have provided such drama. And because of the free scoring nature of both. Aidan O'Shea's trying to get St George FC back in front. Danaskas has a second bite. Kuda's clearance only as far as Souris. Rodic trying to play the cool head. He doesn't mind getting involved in a tough challenge or two when needed. Sean Simmons put that one short of that, but he did clip Justin Poon as he looked to turn past him. Proving a handful down that touchline, Justin Poon. The early stages of this one. Calogero, you can see quite clearly, asking for players to move for him. Sharp ball back to Rodic, just allowing St George to build from the back. APIA's press is coming into full flight in the early stages here. Jordan timing his intervention to perfection. You can say the same of Caden Wright. And then Jordan won it again. It's almost been like ping pong, the ball moving between both sets of players in the opening 20 minutes as that ball almost finds its way to our broadcast position. Up in the Frank Arrock stand tonight. Monge. Not exactly been his style of game in the early stages, I must say, but he's played a firm hand through the middle of the park for APIA. Kuda's trying to add an extra body forward. Oh, and there was a chance there for APIA to try and make something of a bit of a hit and hope ball, and it was Monge who found himself with a ball at his feet. He's managed to fashion a corner. Not the most orthodox attack that APIA have put together, but effective nonetheless. First half of this opening 45 minutes has flown by. Kamiyashi with plenty to aim for. Sean Simmons and Drayden Kelly having a conversation. Michael Cooter got his name on the score sheet against Blacktown a couple of weeks ago, as that one's fired into Axford's near post. Might have been one for the cameras, but he certainly needed to scamper across to his near post there. Kamiyashi well known for trying to catch goalkeepers out like that. Full of confidence after his early goal. Get a second bite to the cherry here, the Japanese midfielder. Might be up towards the tall timber this time around. Oh, and Kelly right on the goalkeeper's nose as he punched clear. Well, they've already knocked one St George FC goalkeeper out of the game. Daniel Axford's just making the point to Adrian Arndt. You're going to let them give me that sort of treatment all evening? Such an imposing figure. Drayden Kelly standing well over 6 foot and terrific athlete. Saw him just appear from nowhere there, really. And the deepest runners getting closest to the football. So Presley Ortiz is always a threat up there as well. Actually playing his trade not far from here for a couple of seasons with St George City before making the mid-season switch to Manly United last year. Hasn't got too many attacking signings wrong in his tenure, Franco Parisi. Ortiz has been another example of that in 2025. It's Cameron Fong. Monge trying to operate between the lines, just escaped him, and Smith's happy to launch it towards the near side. Making his debut in senior football for St George FC tonight. Casella's going to have a good run at this. He had the start in the foot race against Kelly. Did well to recover. Uses his size just to see off the St George striker. Tony timing his press well. Bertolizio saw off that pressure, and then Casella clattering into Kelly. And there's a little bit of afters, almost sat in each other's lap. Casella felt as though there was something towards him afterwards. I have to say, it escaped me in the immediate aftermath. Didn't look like there was too much intent there from Kelly, but certainly Casella felt a solid thump in the back of the head after his very physical challenge on Kelly. Canadian centre-half offering a word's condolence, although I'm not sure he was too impressed by the initial challenge. Casella's just going to be checked on by the very busy St George FC physio in the opening 25 minutes. The history between these two early in the game. There's all those grand finals they played in the 60s and 70s. A lot of them on this patch of grass as well. APIA actually claimed their first ever New South Wales Championship against St George in 1964. Backed it up again in 1965. Get my number right. I've been saying they've played 5 times in grand finals. You can make that 6. Back to back in 75 and 76 as well. St George winning the first and then APIA winning the second. Still down checking on Jaden Casella, who's only just come back from a facial fracture a few weeks ago. He's got a headband being applied by the St George FC staff. Not sure if that's to stem a bit of a flow of blood. He gives Drayden Kelly a sporting high five as he makes his way off the ground. See the commitment of Jaden Casella. That has never been in question. His time with Rockdale Illingdon and then with Sydney Olympic, which didn't go quite as well. He's found a very happy home here at St George with his old opposite winger at Rockdale, as they were in that team. By Antonio, formed one of the most deadly attacking duos in the competition this season, and Casella is throwing himself straight back into the action, winning the ball high up the pitch. Ball turned over by Wright as he searched for Antonio. Kelly asking for options. He ignores Stewart and goes wide for Fong. Did well to step past Aidan O'Shea. Now linking up with Monge to continue his run forward. Cameron Fong stretching for that ball out to Stewart. Souris can just try and add a measure of calm through midfield. Like, APIA's press has been so intense in this opening half hour. It really is providing some physical challenges like that. And Sean Simmons going down under the challenge from Caden Wright, I believe. He's shown the first yellow card of the evening. Year-old midfielder brought in amongst the injury wrath that incurred St George FC early in the season. Has managed to nail down his spot in the starting side. Not shirking the challenge there on a more senior player, Sean Simmons. It's back to his feet. APIA have rather made a waste of the free kick, although Bertolicio and Monge work together to win the ball back. Now Stewart. It's where he likes to operate. Cutting in off the right. Rodic happy to hoist the ball clear. Half an hour played here at Barton Park. If you're just joining us, Justin Poon got the opener inside 3 minutes here. Seiya Kambiashi found APIA Leichhardt's equaliser right on the stroke of 20. Fine strike from the edge of the area. Poon's coming from a clever run in behind, which caught APIA a little cold. Coming straight out of the dressing rooms. Bertolicio clever enough to retain possession. Fong sensing the challenge was coming from Aidan O'Shea, and the throw goes St George FC's way. This is more back to the rhythm of play we saw in the opening 10 minutes, which was frantic. Kelly winning the battle, but conceding the throw. Again, he's got Casella backing into him. This time a bit of support from Jack Stewart, but he took it over the byline, did he? No, just shy of it. Danascos. For Souris, trying to buy a free kick off Seiya Kambiashi, and he got it. Just a little clumsy from Seiya as he tried to harry and hassle Souris off the ball. Youngster's good enough to ride those challenges. Came into the side of Angelo Souris as of Mark Milligan's tenure at the club. That ball's put through. Calageru, well, he's technically proficient, the right back. Judged that ball beautifully and forced a good save from Kalatz at his near post. Smart set piece from St George. Beautifully floated ball, and no one picked up Nicholas Calageru as he moved to the back post. Fine strike that stung the palms of the APIA gloveman. There's a resulting corner to deal with for the visitors. Haven't looked particularly assured in these situations across the season, and Calageru's there again! Ball just cleared in the nick of time by Kelly. And Smith's touch took it over the byline for a goal kick. Now APIA really trying to keep the intensity, pace of this game right up. Kalat's even taken that goal kick before most had a time to catch their breath. Kambiashi looking for the run of Jordan. This high tempo of football really suits the visitors. Simmons for Ortiz, who drifted wide to take that throw. Kambiashi, and now Bertolicio. Kelly. Kuda. For for Ortiz in that advanced area, but he'd stepped offside, the youngster. 22-year-old is an Australian international at under 17 level. Hasn't quite risen to those heady heights, but is certainly in the frame for an A-League men's contract come next season if he can keep this form up, and part of the draw of the Australian Championship for so many of these APIA players particularly. It's going to be the shop window that they're put in come October for higher honours for the club itself. So a chance to get their name back on the national stage, which they've done consistently through Australia Cup performances, and as we mentioned, more than that, flying the colours of a couple of A-League men's teams. Deep run under Daniel Cummins a few seasons ago. Stewart's shot was deflected, made it easy to gather for Axford. Kelly's touch was to his own advantage, and so he's able to clear his lines. Smith with that awkwardly bouncing ball. Good piece of technique to find Danaskos. Souris. Smith coming to lend a hand. St George supporters called for a free kick, but Alessio, as he lost his balance, did well to find Stewart, and Ortiz could be off the shoulder. Rodic just judging it so that Axford could stretch and gather. Just over 10 minutes to go in this first half, which has ebbed and flowed beautifully. It's been eminently watchable for the neutral. APIA fans got exactly what they wanted when Seiya Kambayashi struck home the equaliser after 20 minutes. Copying that earlier goal from Justin Poon. O'Shea. Antonio made such a career of running for these, and Kalatz is forced to use his head. He did it well. In the metaphorical and the literal sense there. Talked a little bit about over the past few weeks, the toing and froing between he and Anthony Bazanis, two of the best goalkeepers in the competition last year, coming together at APIA this season. Bazanis been moved out of his position as first choice goalkeeper by the son of the long-time Socceroo Zelko. Of course, Ollie was playing under at Sydney United last year. Jordan! What a chance to push APIA into a lead for the first time tonight. And Rory Jordan, usually so deadly from there. Little off balance. And perhaps that retreating run of Kalajeru was just enough to put him off. Heart-in-mouth moment for the St George FC supporters in the Frank Arrock stand. APIA are growing into this game, though, hoping that the final 10 minutes can bring the second goal and the lead going into the break. St George have played from behind so mmany times this season, done so with quite a bit of quality. I'd rather be playing on the front foot as Casella and Kuda come together this time. And the result, a APIA Leichhardt goal kick. This is really the most space APIA have seen playing out from their own half. Mentioned how prominent their press has been, but St George have matched that in terms of the way they've wanted to play this game. Free-flowing when the action has been on. Just been stopped by a couple of intermittent injuries. Needed to be treated. They've just joined us. It's Daniel Axford you're spotting in the St George FC net. Mackenzie Serron taken off early for something down the right side of his body. He was clutching his shoulder and then hobbled off. A rather sloppy piece of play coming out from their own end, which we haven't seen too much from St George FC tonight. Pretty faultless in that area up until that pass. Kelly going to give APIA some impetus. Fong given space initially by Danaskos, who was then over to cover. Stewart's inside. Doesn't mind a hit on his left foot, although it's not his favoured. Goes to his opposite winger, Rory Jordan. Lovely back heel. Kambiashi across the face of goal. Still not cleared by St George. And Ortiz's touch takes it into the grateful arms of Axford. Just a couple of moments like that in the past 5 minutes for APIA. His press without the ball has been nothing short of outstanding. Ortiz's touch has not quite been up to that level tonight. Ducking inside is Caden Wright. I think his jersey held by Fong. Saw that there. Happy to play on for now our referee Adrian Arndt, because St George are building a pretty nice attack and committing numbers forward with abandon again. Antonio. Good covering defence from Kelly, but the hosts have a corner. As half-time beckons. This game right on a nice edge. APIA in ascendancy. Most of general play, but St George, every time they go forward, look a threat. They're still getting forward often enough. That is a concern for APIA Leichhardt. Look pretty good from these sort of set pieces as well. Casella will swing this away. It's more the floated option. They made something of it. There was an appeal for a penalty for handball. Quickly waved away by Adrian Arndt, and then a little bit wasteful from Jordan, who had Stewart wide of him. Casella. Forward they go again down the left. Antonio, no block on that cross, and only just evaded. Dion rushing. Aiden O'Shea. I think I used the phrase styles make fights a little bit earlier in this first half, and it's not only the case because of the individuals out there, but because of the style of play both teams have taken out in this first half. It's been gripping stuff, balanced on a nice edge. St George FC crowd here that have gathered. It's a healthy one on this Saturday night. Have been vocal without being completely rowdy. Encouraged by what their team have produced in the opening 40 minutes. But aware of the threat that APIA offer, not least in the form of Sean Simmons. This cross is blocked out for a throw, which he takes quickly for Kambiashi. Kuda for Monge. Back in APIA Leichhardt colours. Happy to be here. I think that would have been one of the great attractions for him, as well as the increased game time, but getting to play with players the quality of Kambiashi and Bertolicio and Stewart and Ortiz ahead of him. Player who enjoys that type of interplay. You see the impetus he's giving them through the centre of the park with his technical quality. Shifting it on for Bertolicio, and Fong might line up here. He went the shorter option. Ortiz sorts out his feet and feeds Kambiashi. Tried to return the favour, and Rodic was in the way. Sharp piece of central defending. Going for that Rodic. He was more often used through the centre of the park in time with the Sutherland Sharks earlier in his career. He's partnered well with young Jaden Sito for the majority of St George FC's season. New defensive partner next to him today in Rocco Smith, rather. And just evading Cameron Fong. He's finding his way further and further forward for a right full back as this first half wears on. Axford taking his time over this bit of distribution, just trying to get an air of calm, certainly into his own defensive half. Shifts it. Must excite a goalkeeper, seeing players flood forwards. There's a wariness about it. Beautifully timed challenge from Rodic. Put it in a fine first half display. Linking up with Caden Wright nicely. Further on for Casella, but Kutha snuffing out that attack before it could really begin. Stewart with a lovely flick out for Fong. He'll continue his run in behind here. And it's Smith stepping across to try and blunt the attack. And Stewart stretching for it, which meant that the plus didn't reach its intended target. Georgia have been very impressive in the way they've scrambled defensively as well. I brought you those results from the earlier games today. You can find them across the NPL NSW YouTube page where you found this game. Just look under the videos tab. You'll also find it across Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search at NPL NSW or NPL New South Wales on Facebook. You'll find all the build-up to the games week on week and the round previews. Both the men's and women's competitions, as well as match reports from all the men's games. Joe Rousseau has been doing this job for so many years now. Tapping away behind me. Press box up here in the Frank Arrock stands. His impressions of what's unfolded here across the 90 minutes. Still plenty of football left to play, which is great for us if you're watching on Football New South Wales YouTube channel tonight. Kuda sweeping up defensively, did it beautifully. Simmons for Fabian Monge. Ortiz. Deep as we've seen him tonight, just trying to get into the action. It's been well dealt with by the two central defenders. Stewart, a little bit heavy on his touch, has it nicked off his toe by his opposite number, O'Shea. Oh, and a sloppy touch from Danaskos. Don't say that too often. And Stewart might make him pay full price. Stunning strike. A rare error from the St George FC captain. Snatched at prawn by APIA Leichhardt, who come from behind before half-time to lead 2-1. Stewart, who'd been frustrated in the most part, seized his opportunity when it was presented. And that is the quality of APIA Leichhardt. You cannot lose concentration for a moment. Stewart has his 10th of the season in all competitions, 8th in league football. Only Presley Ortiz has more for APIA Leichhardt this season. And it's the big guns who've done the damage in the first half for Franco Parisi. Cambiashi and then Stewart. And you have to say, St George will be ruining the mishaps because the two goals they've copped have been largely their own doing. Add that to the quality of this APIA Leichhardt attack. You don't need a second invitation, and you've got a deadly mixture. One that has proved poisonous for St George in this first half. Soros winning his side of free kick, and Justin Poon's opener inside 3 minutes seems a long time ago. Well, that was unfolding. 5 minutes of stoppage time were indicated to us by the fourth official, Damien Dolofsky. Do St George have a response here late? Casella might do. Struck it with some venom, but couldn't keep the chance on target. Well, Jack Stewart, so often the difference since his transfer from Mount Druitt Town Rangers at the end of the 22 season. Won a premiership in his first year, a Waratah Cup in his second under Franco Parisi. Haven't gone trophyless under the club legend in his tenure. Building towards silverware. Still in contention on 3 fronts. One of them hasn't started yet, of course. The Australian Championship. The sort of club with the kind of quality make a run all the way in the Australia Cup as Sydney United did back in 2022. Only NPL side to make it all the way to an Australia Cup final. APIA have been close a couple of times, but for this year, the attacking firepower that they boast, that they might well have an opportunity. It's the professionals in their pre-season. This team's going to be battle-hardened and right in full flow, as Kambiashi and Ortiz are here. Ortiz is the only one forward, so he's going to have to be clever. Clearance only as far as Kambiashi. Stewart's full of confidence. Well, his strike blocked well by Kalajeru, but now there's space on that right flank. Jordan cutting inside, and he was a whisker away from making it 3. He's had a couple of chances in this first half for Rory Jordan. One that fell to him just after the half-hour mark was rather more straightforward than that, but I feel that was rather closer to ending up in the back of Axford's net. Not quite to be for APIA. Would have been some turnaround if they were able to build a 2-goal buffer for themselves after copping the early goal. Casella doing well to get in front of Kelly, and Poon was nearly off the shoulder there. O'Shea's ball just had too much on it. Kalat's able to come out and sweep up behind his defence. A little bit of frustration in the body language of the APIA Leichhardt players. They don't feel like they're quite in full flight despite holding this 2-1 advantage. Be happy enough to take that to the sheds given the way this game started. The opening 10 minutes when they really did look a bit loosey-goosey defensively. They've shored it up since, given their attacking players the chance to make the impact they always feel they can. Climbing high was Rodic above a pack of bodies from the throw. APIA will do it all again. Wonder as well. Told you about all those social media platforms. 4 games kicking off at 3 o'clock tomorrow in the NPL New South Wales men's. Central Coast Mariners taking on Mount Druitt Town Rangers. Marconi facing Sydney FC. Rockdale Illingdon hosting Sutherland down the road from here at Illingdon Sports Centre. And Sydney United 58 against Spirit. A clash of 2 top 6 contenders. No doubt APIA fans will have an eye on that. Knowing might be a key fixture coming up against one of those two come the end of the season. They've done their campaign no harm with their response to copping the early goal from Justin Poon. Sayed Kambiashi claiming the equaliser on 20 minutes before Jack Stewart arrowed one into the corner of St George FC's net. And so the host's good start was laid to waste. APIA's quality shining brightest on Saturday night at Barton Park as we head to the sheds from this famous old ground. It's St George FC 1, APIA Leichhardt 2. Welcome back to Barton Park. The second half about to get underway in this round 21 clash between APIA Leichhardt and St George FC. And the visitors have the lead at the break on their first visit to this ground in 2 decades. They trailed early through Justin Poont's third-minute strike before Saya Kambiashi, and then Jack Stewart gave them the advantage heading into the break. So they're in the ascendancy, pushing towards those teams up the top. Just need to hold out now to seal what would be another crucial victory on their run into the finals, and ahead of that big Australia Cup tie in a few weeks' time against Melbourne City. Alex Molchanoff back joining you for the second half on the Football New South Wales YouTube channel. Been plenty of action from both teams in the first half, throwing numbers forward with reckless abandon at times, which has made it so enjoyable for us to bring to you. That means we should have a fairly entertaining 45 minutes to come from this historic old football ground. No changes from either team at the break. St George have had to make one already due to an injury to their goalkeeper, or starting goalkeeper, Mackenzie Siron. Daniel Axford has taken his place in goal after the number 99, as he is, was withdrawn just after 10 minutes. Apia's press has brought both their 2 goals, and they're stepping forward on the front foot again here at the start of the second period in their change sky blue strip tonight. Stewart darting forward, a well-timed challenge from Danaskos just to make sure the attack didn't go any further. Stewart not always as encouraged by his performance perhaps as we've been sitting up here. Kind of frustrated figure at different times during the first half, but lead is enough to smile about at this stage in the game. Sean Simmons raising for that header at the near post before lofting the ball forward towards Ortiz. Actually came from an offside position, but we'll play on here because St George FC have claimed possession. Suarez's ball was a little wayward though. And here's Stewart. Cameron Fong, who was up and down the right flank during the first half, is getting forward again from right full back. Takes the throw in quickly for his partner down the right-hand side tonight, Stewart, who was looking for Kambiashi. He was well offside. Clever enough to let the ball run and ensure it was a goal kick rather than giving St George those few extra yards. There have been high-scoring affairs recently between these two. 3-3 draw earlier in the season. APIA claiming a 5-0 victory towards the end of last year at Lambert Park after a 2-2 draw on their last away visit to St George. That was down the road at the Illingdon Sports Centre. Ortiz might have used an arm to control that one. Certainly the supporters thought so. The throw goes St George's way in any case. Rather quiet. The protests you could hear coming through the effects mics rather vociferously. Good bank of the St George FC under-20s who played the game preceding this one. Ended in a 2-2 draw. And featured APIA's substitute tonight, young Oscar Gonzalez, who's in line for a competitive senior debut. He's brought off the bench by Franco Parisi in this second half. He's had Max Court, the 16-year-old, on the score sheet for them in last week's big 6-2 victory over Sydney FC, just down the road from here. The goal scoring has been well commented on over the past couple of seasons. On track to hit almost 100 goals with their start to the year in an attacking sense. APIA, they've slid off that pace, but could still record a record haul in club history if they're able to surpass that mark from a year ago, which was 78. For 2 goals tonight, they're up to 55 with what will be 8 games to play after this one. Wouldn't put it past them. Scoring goals in bunches season 2025. Were the highest scorers across the NPL New South Wales last season, despite finishing 3rd. They've just ticked ahead of Rockdale Illingdon in that little count in season 2025. Trying to add another hair as Ortiz rose highest from Simmons' set piece. Wants it over the crossbar of Daniel Axford rather than on target, though. St George have continued to try and play out from the back. That's unfortunately where the 2 goals have come from tonight. 2 turnovers in their own half. Back of APIA's well-disciplined press. They really look to have brought into this game as a point of focus. Moving up the pitch aggressively together as a unit. Here's Fabian Monge, his first start since his return from Melbourne victory. There's a chance for Ortiz, who did the unselfish thing rather than going for goal himself. Difficult one for Rory Jordan to corral. So the same with Bertolicio as he looked to find Simmons, and it trickles harmlessly out of play. As things stand on the live ladder, APIA are going to retain their position in 4th place. They couldn't be caught with the results in this round. Has just kept them ahead of Blacktown City. Got the result themselves today with a 2-0 victory, an important one out at Jubilee Stadium against Sydney Olympic. 2 quality goals. Just having a look at the highlights during half-time, and 2 quality goals. Second from a penalty kick, but well struck nonetheless by Jack O'Brien after Jacob Kresna's quite stunning volley to open the scoring there. You can find all the highlights from this round of fixtures, as well as all of them over the course of the season, on the Football New South Wales YouTube page. APIA trying to add another hair with Ortiz. Again went to Jordan, and the covering defence from Rocco Smith was in the nick of time. Slashing across in front of his goalkeeper to ensure that Jordan's strike wasn't clean and on target. He's had a few chances tonight. There's a shake of the head for Roy Jordan as he retreats towards halfway. Not one of the tall timber, so not called upon to attack the set piece, which he won. So Kambiashi juggling that ball into his hands as he gets ready to take the corner. Ortiz crowded in front of a couple of St George players and Daniel Axford. It's in towards that bunch. Good piece of defensive work from Rodic. Follow-up clearance from Antonio lacked a bit of distance, so Kambiashi can put it deep. Kuda! Oh, he's trying to steer it on target. Heroic defending again from Mark Rodic. really has been called upon to bail his team out of trouble a couple of times already in this second half. APIA have got the bit between their teeth. Encouraged by the lead and the form they've shown to start this second half. Jordan operating between the lines. Ortiz for Stewart. Might have bagged a second. Strike lacked the required direction. St George survive another APIA raid. They are just building and building here, the visitors. Haven't quite found full flow, but it's coming. Looking more likely to make it 3-1 and put themselves as heavy favourites in this game than St George are. In terms of finding a response and levelling this game up. Strong bit of play from Bertolizio. And the ball in behind's not bad for Cambiashi either. Rodic over to meet him again. Cambiashi kept his feet. Jordan! Brilliant save from Axford, who gets a big hand from the St George FC supporters. Might well have been 3 without his intervention. After a gorgeous ball over the top from Bertolizio. But St George being stretched to their limits here defensively. Yet to beat APIA since their ascension back into the top tier, and that record is looking as though it's going to hold. Axford did well again to get his fist on that. Jordan heads it back in an attacking direction for APIA. Kelly showing off his athleticism. Cambiashi rides a couple of challenges. Darts it inside to Bertolizio. It's met by a strong challenge from Souris, and now it's Monge in a wrestling match with Calagero, who wins his side the throw. Now there's space for Bay Antonio. This is where St George like to operate. And the ball was lacking. Hasn't had his finest night, Bay Antonio. Been in and about the dangerous attacking areas as Ortiz leaves Rocco Smith in a heap on the floor. Momentum took him rolling for a fair distance as well. Brave piece of defending for the St George FC debutant tonight. He's signing in the registration window. Brought you a couple of those APIA Leichhardt substitutes that they've got available. Fabian Michelli's got a couple of new signings. Shanyel Shan is not one of those. Nicholas Skataric, who started last week, has made the switch from Mount Druitt Town Rangers. Gianni DiPizio from Sydney Olympic, and Jasper Weber from Blacktown City. Weber was actually spending some time with APIA in pre-season before making the late switch to Olympic on the to Blacktown rather on the eve of the season. Well won by Souris. Poon got the scoring started tonight, but has not really seen an opportunity as clear as that since. Cambiashi's lost his shin pad along all of that. See him holding it in his right hand. Challenges flying it everywhere. Pieces of equipment flying about on the Barton Park surface. The other substitute available to Fabian Michelli, should he look to use him, is young Tuyuka. He's made just the one start this season, but it's been almost an ever-present off the bench across the course of the first couple of thirds of the season. Here's Smith. Bouncing awkwardly for Antonio. Managed to corral it and roll it back for Rodic. He just thumps it into Calagero. And St George FC's play coming out of their own half has betrayed them over the course of the last 15 or 20 minutes either side of half-time. Simmons is a little devoid of options at the moment, so happy to just put it into the feet of Cambiashi, although that didn't quite work out either. Calagero fails to play it out again. Kuta sitting high. and then handed it straight back to him. Smith for Danaskos. George trying to restore some calm to their play out from the back. Rodic has got that sort of ability. Look further up the field this time. Casella started his career as a creative midfielder, of course, so he's quite comfortable in that area of the field. Caligiero, the northern suburbs of Sydney product. Trying to play his way out. Rodic stumbled and fell. And into the challenge, which results in an APIA Leichhardt throw. Just can't get out of their own half at the moment, the hosts. Quelling raid after raid from APIA Leichhardt's much vaunted attack. Bertolicio. Monge and Kuda between themselves. Now Kuda trying to step forward into midfield. Bertolicio switching the angle of attack to Fong. Stewart. Space to run. To clip a dangerous ball across. Fell right at the feet of Caligiero. Able to spin and clear without too much pressure. They've just been locked in there at the moment, aren't they? St George FC. APIA so keen to win the ball back high up the pitch. Stewart. In a race with Danaskos. At the better of that little battle, Jack Stewart. We're going to see a first change, or couple of changes of the second half here from St George City. First of those looks as though it's going to be Thomas Dunn. Wasn't the one of those that we mentioned might be brought on today. Chanyel Chan is another. And Johnny DiPizio is on for his St George FC debut in the centre of the pitch. Got a wrong number reading on that. It's Jesper Weber, who was the third of those substitutions. Not done, not listed tonight. So that's the trio. There's a chance here for them to get straight amongst the action. Antonio Casella had run into an offside position. Weber's the target centrally. Right, trying to clean up the scraps, which he did well. Antonio goes himself, stings the palms of Kalatz. It's an awkward one. It had so much movement on it from Antonio. It was dipping and swerving through the air. Kalatz happy to just beat it out of danger. Players coming off the pitch for St George FC. Aidan O'Shea, one of them. Justin Poon, another. Evan Souris, the third, playing through the centre of the park. So all like-for-likes changes for Fabian Michelli as Rodic goes through the back of Monge. Turns smartly to make sure his body was between the defender and the ball. And Simmons has gone direct to Seiya Kambiashi. Back heel for Ortiz. A nice little move if it works out for APIA. Monge was trying to provide that third man run. Cut off by Caligiero. Bertolicio. Ortiz, lovely little swivel of the hips and turn. Kambiashi, always looking to lob the goalkeeper. Axford did well to maintain his composure and catch with Jordan in close attention. Antonio going almost route one there, which Kelly was quite happy about. At front spot ahead of Casella. So 4 changes used by Fabian Michelli. He's only got a couple left on his bench now. To Yuka and Nicholas Skataric. The last 2 available off the bench. APIA still have their full complement of 5 to use. So with the game in the state that it is at the moment, unless St George can claim something on the break like this, Parisi will keep them up his sleeve until he most needs them. Tees was trying to be clever with the touch, but just chested it out of play. Kelly stretching all the way. Interrupt that little bit of link-up play. Saying St George haven't beaten APIA in a league fix yet since being promoted back into the NPL New South Wales. They did manage an upset in a cup tie back in 2019 at the Illingdon Sports Centre. A 1-0 victory, a goal scored by Brad Bartels, veteran of the Football New South Wales leagues. Their last victory against APIA Leichhardt, coming 6 years ago. They have to turn the tide late here if they're to change that statistic tonight. Good at diving in, and the fact that he lost his feet means Weber is stuck in behind, and Sean Simmons with a cynical tug of the shirt. It's going to be the first APIA Leichhardt player booked this evening. With St George's winger bearing down on goal. If you're new to watching Jesper Weber, that's what you can expect. As a St George FC fan, play with so much direct running power, plenty of pace. Pretty lethal right boot on him as well when he gets in the position to strike at goal. Direct running there gave Sean Simmons more than a headache. Brought him a booking as well. What can Casella provide from the set piece? It's forward for Yelchan. What a save by Kalatz. Keeps APIA in front. Awkward ball in that fell right for St George FC's number 9. Only thwarted by a terrific piece of goalkeeping. St George managed to wrestle back some momentum. Ball into the near post. Casella did well to make anything of it. Nods it wide. Well, he hasn't had too much to do. Ollie Kalatz tonight. One shot from distance that stung his palms earlier in this second half from Bay Antonio. It's been about the extent of his work since Justin Poon's opener. Alive when the moment called for him. Joel Bertolicio is taken late, and Kalatz is right out of his goal here to talk to Adrian Hart. I don't think the referee's going to take too kindly to that. Sends him right back to whence he came. He wasn't happy with a challenge there from, I think it was Antonio. Just left a foot in. He's got a wry smile for Sean Simmons, who's less than pleased as well. Obviously looking to protect their very technically proficient central midfielder. He's the basis for so much of their build-up play. It's a extreme reaction for what looked like a pretty run-of-the-mill foul. It's not how APIA felt about it, of course. Bertolicio is back with us, and he's brought forward safely into the hands of Axford. Teammates were more upset about it than he was. Gorgeous touch from Stewart. Ball for Bertolicio was pretty good as well. Jordan for Monge. Two nippy little midfielders trying to link up. Feel they'll enjoy each other's company down the end of the season. We talked about the direct running of Jesper Weber. Away he goes, and Ortiz just collars him to the turf. It's going to be 2 runs. Well, I'll tell you what, Presley Ortiz is rather fortunate he hasn't been added to Adrian Hart's notebook. It was a good old-fashioned collaring, almost ripped Jesper Weber's shirt from his body. I'll tell you what, he's been a big impact for St George FC in his debut. He's given them another set piece from which to try and trouble Ollie Kalatz. Last one went pretty well. This is into a similar area. Again, only half clear by APIA. Kalajeru through a forest of bodies. And Danaskos right on the spot. He's been such a goal sneak for St George FC this season. Nearly got another there. They've got to be careful in transition, though. Awkward one for Kalajeru. Pops for Kambiashi. Casella retreating. Kambiashi so clever to evade that challenge. Good piece of defending from Rocco Smith. Between he and Antonio and Wright, they look to have sorted it out. Fong made sure that they hadn't quite. Monge for Jordan. Lovely layback. And Fong forces the save from Axford. Stood tall. Oh, the strike was straight at him. Kambiashi. St George just caught cold from that direct ball. With more defending to do. Stewart. Feel there's a goal coming shortly as he fires that one in. Grass cutter. Easily wrangled by St George FC's goalkeeper. Again, Webber's the outlet in transition for St George. Both teams playing very direct style at the moment. Bertolissio continues that theme. Stewart timed his run, so now can engage Danaskos and get a shot away. Was always flying high and wide. Cannot take your eyes off this one at the moment. Balanced on a knife's edge. And looking like either team could get this all-important fourth goal. Gorgeous ball out from Gianni Di Pizzio for Kalajeru, and Caden Wright's taken up the attack. Antonio, this is where he loves to operate. Casella almost off the shoulder of Kelly. And might have been offside in any case. The flag was up. So now the whistle goes. He's going to have his wits about him in these closing 20 minutes, isn't he, Drayden Kelly? Between he and Kuda. The running of Yelchan and Webber and Antonio. There is still plenty of bite to match the bark of St George FC. Now the changes come for APIA. Perhaps sensing he needs a couple of fresh legs out there, Franco Parisi. So he goes to his bench. The end of a fine return to APIA Leichhardt's midfield for Fabian Monge, who is withdrawn. Maxim Kasalovic taking his spot in the centre of the park. Push Bertolissio a little bit higher, and Presley Ortiz's night is over as well. Goal-scoring threat of Alex Denmead taking his spot up front. He's had a fine impact off the bench. Been used mostly there by APIA for the last couple of seasons. Solid return with 5 league goals. And to a couple of cup football as well. Talented 20-year-old. Striker coming on in this game at the moment. You must sense there's a goal with your name on it. Drayden Kelly striding in, playing the role of midfielder here. Didn't look too bad at it either. Gorgeous ball out for Stewart. Whipped across the face of goal, and Rocco Smith, who's had a fine starting debut for St George FC tonight as well, there to do the clearing. Certainly hasn't been at fault for either of the goals. The 2 turnovers have led to that, from first Evan Souris and then Troy Danaskos. Giveaway led to Jack Stewart's goal, which separates the 2 teams at the minute. Great piece of defending from Jesper Webber. Isn't he looking enlivened by this switch from Blacktown City? Webber again. Now with a little bit more pressure. Can he wiggle his way out of it? Goes back to Kalajeru. Denmead's got fresh legs, so he's happy to chase from the front. I'm sure what Franco Parisi was looking for. Couldn't Chaniel Chan have added his name to what has been a remarkable story here tonight if he'd been able to beat Oliver Kalatz a few minutes ago? Not to be. St George building another nice attack. Webber goes the early cross, lacking direction. Oh, it has stayed in play. First touch for the fresh legs of Kasalovic. Kelly, just under 15 minutes to just over 15 minutes to play here, I should say. hope and anticipation from Kalatz, and Fong knew before the whistle went that he'd considered the foul. I wonder as well tonight, put your locations of our social media pages, at NPL NSW is what to look for across Twitter and Instagram. Joe Kay's doing a terrific job bringing you all the behind-the-scenes action from Barton Park tonight. You'll be able to find on the Instagram stories. Looking for highlights at the end of the night, just head across to the video section of the Football New South Wales YouTube channel. This little 5 to 10 minute highlight package will pop up over the next few hours. Tell you what, it might be one of the longer ones tonight. There's been plenty of action in both boxes. Kuda, perhaps a little fortunate to win the free kick as he strode his way forward. With that cover of Kasalovic, he and Kelly are getting forward more and more often. The best ball from Kambayashi, belted it towards the head of Denmead. And lost out in a scrap through midfield with DiPizio. Sellers drifted to the left, which is his want. He's strong enough to ride the challenge of Fong. He's trying to beat him. Kelly comes over to finish the job, really. Seller baying for a free kick, which never came. Understand why. Every chance now held preciously by St George with quarter of an hour to play. Ball skewing off the outside of Dredden Kelly's right boot. Right, clever turn. And Damascus going down under the challenge, and this time the whistle does come for St George. Bertolizio leaving in a boots on the Saints skipper. Lovely turn from right. How's the weight on the pass for Casella? It gave him a chance, and Fong only able to slide in and put the ball behind for a Saints corner. See Casella, he's moving rather gingerly. He's got the bumps and the bruises this evening. Still feel the final storyline in tonight's game has not quite been written. Been a fraught second half that's had just about everything other than the goal it's promised. Big crowd around Oliver Kalatz. Scasella ready to drive this one into the area. There's a heap of St George bodies. Kalatz fights through them all to fall on the football. Let's put in another good performance. Actually, his form was last year for Sydney United 58. He's had to grow into that jersey, but he's looking more and more comfortable in it week on week. The base of APIA Leichhardt's defence. Bertolizio. APIA still senses a third here for them if they take it. Denmead, lovely bit of footwork. Almost battled his way all the way past the St George defence. Wasn't quite to be. But now it's their turn to fire in a corner. APIA Leichhardt. Kambayashi goes the short option. Might have caught St George slightly unawares. Denmead, just a little too high for him. And Chan swivels it clear. Ball returned brilliantly by Jordan for Sean Simmons. Doesn't need a second invitation in these areas, and then Denmead's touch betrayed him. There's no release further up the field for St George. Stewart, lively all evening, and continues his run. Good piece of defending from Smith. APIA will be happy to let it spin behind. Having the ball up this end as valuable, you feel now, is that third goal. A couple of the juniors have found their voice below us, trying to drive their team on. Just over 10 minutes to play. Try and find this equaliser that's eluded them. Justin Poon's strike came inside 3 minutes. Haven't been able to hit the scoreboard since. APIA might be able to kill the game off with a goal from this corner. Simmons will test Axford. Towards the near post, Yelchan on the turn again. Stewart kept it alive, save with the legs, Axford, and Denmead missed his cue when the ball fell to him. Oh, and there was a chance there for Antonio to get out in transition as bodies fell by the dozen almost in the middle of the pitch. Jordan pinged for the free kick. This game moving at a mile a minute, even in its closing stages. It's been the theme all evening, played at a terrific tempo. St George trying to keep their finals hopes alive. They'll probably need 2 goals rather than just the solitary equaliser there to make that a realistic hope. As it stands, APIA set to put the pressure back on those right up the top. With the result tonight, Marconi, Rockdale and Spirit all in action tomorrow. 3 o'clock kickoffs on Sunday. Still, this game's not quite been sent out. Stern words interchanged between a couple of the St George players. 10 minutes to go. Can they write another late chapter in their book of the season? There's been plenty already. Yelchan. DiPizio. Yelchan right on the line, but not over it. Kelly's clearance only as far as Jesper Weber, who'll look to get to the byline, and Kuda flies into the challenge. Adrian Arndt's whistle goes. The help of the assistant on this near side, Liam Smith. Flew into that tackle. Michael Kuda. Last of the substitutes for Fabian Michalik. End of the night for Caden Wright. Battled hard through the middle of the park. And Nicholas Kataric is going to add hopefully a little bit of goal scoring ability up front. Yet to get off the mark for St George FC. This is just his second senior appearance. Time of the essence for the hosts, though. Kuda goes down under the challenge, and Skataric's first little bit of action is to give away that free kick. Relieves a little bit of pressure on APIA. Been fighting and scrapping back there. APIA will take this time over every restart now, knowing victory is nearly theirs. Alex had plenty of distance on the clearance. Now it's Alex Denmead's job to try and chase it down. Kalijero turned himself into trouble and then tugged back. APIA's young striker. As has been the case for most of the night, St George's trouble has mostly been their own doing. Turning the ball over in their own half. Kalijeru's case there, right on the edge of his own penalty area. Not sustainable against a side as strong in the attacking facets of the game as APIA are. Maybe actually had half a thought about going short to Sean Simmons at the edge of the box. Now Adrian Arndt's almost blocking off that option. Be able to knock this into a pretty risky corridor for St George. Great piece of defending from Rodic. Read the flight of the ball brilliantly. Kasalovic brave as he went up with Skotaric. Kambiashi stretching to try and keep the attack alive. Let's come straight back to the Japanese startlet. Back heel found Sean Simmons. That gorgeous left boot of his just had a bit too much on it for Denmead. Kelly out of defence. Gorgeous bit of footwork. Stewart. Oh, I thought Simmons was a bit higher than he was. Calogero happy to clear his lines. Kuda got his head on it. Poor ball again from Calogero, but he's been bailed out by DiPizio. And Kelly just makes his way through a sea of red shirts. Seen him do all night. Fong. That's a dangerous ball. There's a big chance here to make it 3. Axford again the hero. Unless Jordan can finish. And didn't he fluff his lines? I'll tell you what, Daniel Axford, since being brought on after just 10 minutes, wasn't expecting to see the field tonight. This could yet be the hero's part. It's been big for St George FC, particularly in this second half. Poor turnover again from St George FC, coming out of their own half, and DiPizio this time just sticking a leg out and bringing down Maxim Kasalovic. So 5 minutes to play. APIA have wrestled back the momentum. St George still looking enough of a threat to keep things interesting in transition. But APIA could be back into third place at the end of the night if they hang on. Simmons has left the ball behind. Still managed to wriggle his way between 3 before Antonio took it off him. And we see the running power of by Antonio. Skotaric trying to help it on its way. All read by Fong, taken up again by Antonio. Casella. Weber. He's got stuck with a couple of blue shirts around him. Casella from distance. Kalak scrambling across at his near post and held on to the strike as well. Good piece of keeping. It's getting desperate now for the hosts. Pushed hard in their second half, but haven't been able to come up with the all-important goal. Simmons for Jordan. There's more and more space developing in APIA Leichhardt's midfield as St George push numbers forward. Fong still full of running from right full back. Cross didn't match that bit of energy. Casella, gorgeous turn. Kasalovic all over him as he continues to make his run forward. Still Casella, pursued by Kasalovic into the corner. And it's a St George FC throw, much to the displeasure of the APIA triumvirate who'd come over in cover. That's easy for Kalat's catching practice, really. Casella shoulders so much of that creative responsibility. He's been in the wars again tonight. Seen with that headband from a knock copped in the first half. After an entanglement with Drayden Kelly. It's clever from Calogero just to knock it back to Rodic. It's almost like he had eyes in the back of his head. Calogero asking for help. Got a bit of it with a deflection off Roy Jordan. St George have it, but it's down the wrong end. Skotaric clattered into by Kasalovic, who was keen not to let him wriggle away. St George just wanted in play. Give themselves as much time as possible. DiPizio continued his run forward. Again, Kasalovic making the block. This is where St George will feel they have a chance. Set pieces have been good for them. Have over the course of the last month, and APIA known to have a bit of a defensive deficiency there. It's going to be tested again here. Just under 2 minutes to go, not anticipating a whole lot of stoppage time. The bandaged marksman, Casella, over to swing in another corner. Callets came, it took him 2 bites, but it was a brave bit of goalkeeping as the ball hit the floor. And they could be out in transition here, APIA, because St George have thrown so many forward. Stewart with it, Denmead and Kambiashi with him. It's Alex Denmead to kill it off for APIA. Axford, not enough. Alex Denmead, again off the bench, again on the score sheet. And APIA are over the line now. The third of the night will mean 3 points. Their speed in transition on full display. A 3-on-1, and Axford, for all his heroics, got a big hand to it, but it wasn't enough to stop it from trickling over the line. And APIA are going to keep themselves alive in the hunt for the premiership. Still not exactly odds on. In fact, quite the opposite, but this is a big result for them, away from home here, which they can basically notch up as a win now. Big week coming for them. We'll find out exactly the time and date of that kickoff against Melbourne City. It's the biggest fixture in the near future. They travel to the Western Sydney Wanderers next weekend, out at Rudy Hill, before a big clash with Rockdale at the Illington Sports Centre. You feel that will define whether they're still in the hunt for the premiership come the last month of the season. But the 3 points here has kept them in that conversation, as Stewart looks to add the cherry on top here. Over the top, and Kambiashi might just be happy to take this to the corner. Holds it up. Now engages Kalajeru. Goes to the byline and couldn't quite keep it in. For St George, this will keep them firmly in mid-table. Just ahead of Sydney Olympic after their defeat by Blacktown City this afternoon. Still looking good for a highest finish in New South Wales football for 20 years. Disappointment tonight, but the measure of their season is that they have been never an easy opposition for any of the big boys, which has been in contrast to what they were a season ago. There's an added stoicness to them in season 2025. Certainly the threat they offer going forward is more notable, but APIA have dealt with them well after Justin Poon's 3rd-minute opener tonight. And with this result, APIA jump Spirit into 3rd place. Spirit could make that up tomorrow, but tough task for them going down to the Sydney United Sports Centre. One of the longest trips in the competition for a team from northwest Sydney. Stewart. He's already got one tonight, slams it against Kalajeru. And APIA not too enthusiastic about taking the corner quickly. Why would they be now? Oh, it's a swerving effort from Sean Simmons. Well, it would have been a picture of what we've seen from him for the past 10 years in this competition. Still a big part of this APIA Leichhardt side. Still a driving force, wearing the armband tonight. Coming up against younger legs. To rave reviews again. Skataric for Kalajeru. Skataric, clean nutmeg on Sean Simmons. Good recovering challenge from Kuda. Bit of excitement for the St George FC fans, but steam has gone somewhat out of the building now. APIA write another happy chapter in this famous old fixture. Oh, how about that from Skataric? There might be a late bit of joy here. Casella! It might be too little too late, but it was a gorgeous bit of interplay that gives St George a very late sniff. And now Denmead's goal looks just that little bit more important. I'll tell you what, they came from 3-1 down to claim a point early in the year. It would be even more dramatic, a late turnaround this time. APIA just hack it down the other end. Check of the watch from referee Adrian Arndt. And there's not going to be enough time. It was just too little too late. Some of the incomings making bright starts for their St George career. The goals came too far apart, and APIA were able to hammer home 3 of their own either side of half-time. Kambiashi, Stewart, and then Alex Denmead off the bench, adding a third. Casella's late goal, only a consolation for St George FC. So APIA still in the title picture at the end of the night. Another entertaining chapter written in the story of this famous old fixture at this famous old football ground. It's been a pleasure to bring you this match of round 21 in the NPL New South Wales men's competition. That ends after 90 minutes. St George FC 2, APIA Leichhardt 3.